Hello everyone, here we shall discuss today's question paper, the Prelims 2025 Gender Studies paper 1. So in this, let us see the answer key and we shall discuss the part of geography and environment. So in this year, about 27 questions have been asked from geography and environment. Let us see the questions one by one. So I will share you the question now. Here, it is the question set B. In the B set, first 10 questions are from science and tech area. Here, so you can note the key, and then from the question number 11 here, it is a three-statement question. In this style, many questions have been asked in this year. Statement 1 is, studies indicate that carbon dioxide emissions from cement industry account for more than 5% of global carbon emissions. Statement 2, silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement. Statement 3, limestone is converted into lime during clinker production for cement manufacturing. So the options are both statements 2 and 3 are correct, and both of them are correct explanation to statement 1. Option B, both statement 2 and 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Only one of the statements 2 and 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. Option D, neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Okay. So here, first of all, we should check whether the statement 1 is correct or not. Before that, we shall check, because in all these options, they have given about statement 2 and 3, right? So we have to check whether the statement 2 and 3 are correct or not. Silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement. So that is the process. So the statement is correct. And statement 3, limestone is converted into lime during clinker production for cement manufacturing. So this is also, so the two processes in the cement manufacturing, statement 2 and statement 3 are correct. So when the statement 2 and 3 both are correct, we can skip option C and D. So we have to check option A and B only, whether it is correct explanation to statement 1 or not. So here statement is, studies indicate that carbon dioxide emissions from cement industry account for more than 5%. Yes, because during these two processes mentioned in statement 2 and 3, the carbon dioxide is emitted from the manufacturing of cement. So both these statements explain statement 1. So option A. Okay. Then question number 12. COP29 was in the issue, which was held in Baku, Azerbaijan, but they have asked COP28. Statement 1, statement 2, statement 3. At the 28th COP, India refrained from signing the Declaration on Climate and Health. Statement 2, COP28 Declaration on Climate and Health is a binding declaration, and if signed, it becomes a mandatory to decarbonize health sector. If India's health sector is decarbonized, the resilience of its healthcare system may be compromised. So here, the statement 1 has been given. So we have to check the statement 2 and 3. So statement 2 and 3 is, it is not mandatory, right? And two extremes things have been given in the statement 2. One is binding declaration. After Paris Agreement, we had no binding target, and then it is mandatory to decarbonize, it has been given. So that is not correct. So if the statement 2 is not correct, we have to think about option C or D. Okay. What is the India stand on the COP28 and why they refrain from signing? Because if it is followed, our healthcare system will be affected. The growth will be affected. So that's what India refrained from signing this declaration. So it is option C. Only one of the statements 2 and 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. So the statement 3 explains the statement 1. Okay. Then scientific studies suggest that shift is taking place in the Earth rotation and axis. Okay. So almost from 2011 Kyoto Protocol, scientists are discussing about this, the change in the Earth rotation and axis. Statement 2, solar flares and associated coronal mass ejections bombarded the Earth's outermost atmosphere with a tremendous amount of energy. As the Earth's polar ice melt, the water tends to move towards the equator. So, we have to think which of these two phenomena affects the Earth rotation and axis. The solar phase that occurs for millions of years, that is from the origin of the solar system, it occurs, and the mass ejections, coronal mass ejections released from the solar flares, but our Earth protect us using the magnetosphere, right? So the magnetic field of the Earth, the magnetosphere, protects us from the solar flares and the coronal mass ejection that we know, but it will not affect the rotation of axis. Statement 3, as the Earth polar ice melts, the water tends to move towards the equator. Yes, due to the centrifugal force, the water from the polar, the hydrostatic balance will be maintained, but the water is attracted towards the equator due to centrifugal force, and it has the impact on the rotation and the axis of the Earth. So statement 3 explains statement 1. Okay, so it is both statement 2 and 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Okay, that is, that statement 3 explains. Statement 2 is correct. It has the solar phase associated coronal mass ejections bombarded the outermost atmosphere with a tremendous amount of energy, but it is protected by our magnetosphere. So it is correct, but not the explanation for statement 1. Okay. Then Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change is frequently discussed in global discussions on sustainable development and climate change. Statement 2 and 3. 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change sets out the principles of carbon markets. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change intends to promote inter-country non-market strategies to reach their climate targets. So here, so it is option A, because the statement 1, Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, it is discussed on sustainable development and climate change. Here Article 6 discussed both. They discussed about the principles for carbon markets, and also they intended to promote inter-country non-market strategies. Okay, so both of them. So option A. So both were in the news. Then, so 15 is a current affairs question. Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and Pacific, launched by, it is ADB, Asian Development Bank. So they launched this for the sustainable development and to protect biodiversity. They encouraged the Nature Solutions Finance Hub. It is. So the project related to the Nature Solutions were financed. So that is the thing, Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and Pacific, the Asian Development Bank. Okay. Then direct air capture, an emerging technology. Which of the following statements are correct regarding it? It can be used as a way of carbon sequestration. It can be valuable approach for plastic production and in food processing. In aviation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel. It can be considered as a carbon sequestration because it is taking the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So it can be considered as, so it can be used as the way for this. Then statement number 2, it can be valuable approach for plastic production and in food processing. So in the plastic production and in the food processing industry, we can use those carbon from the atmosphere, that is through the direct air capture, right? So it can reduce the emissions in the plastic production and in the food processing industry. Then in aviation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel. So it was also in the current affairs. So statement 3 is also correct. So option C. Then regarding peacock tarantula, the agouti tarantula, consider the following statements. So it was in the news. It is a spider species. So statement 1 is wrong. It is an omnivorous crustaceans. So it is not crustaceans. It's crustaceans, we know, right? The marine species like prawns, shrimps, or crustaceans, the crab. Statement number 2, its natural habitat in India is only limited to some forest areas. Yes, particularly it is found in the Andhra Pradesh, Telangana forest regions, in the deciduous forest regions. In its natural habitat, it is an arboreal species. Arboreal species means the species living in the top canopy of the trees, in the top portions of the trees. So that is, so statement 1 is wrong, 2 and 3 is correct. Option D. Okay. Then 18. Carbon dioxide emission in India are less than 0.5 tons carbon dioxide per capita. In terms of CO2 emissions from fuel combustion, India ranks second in Asia Pacific region. Electricity and heat producers are the largest sources of CO2. So the per capita emission in India is about 2 tons and more than 2 tons. So it has been given that 0.5. So it is extremely very less. So we can eliminate this. So 1 is wrong. And 2, China first, India second place. We know that. And thermal power plants, the electricity production, so that is the major producer of sources of the carbon dioxide that we know. So option 2 and 3 are correct. Option C. Then cassava, ginger, Malabar spinac, mint, papaya. Cassava, woody shrub. Ginger, herb with pseudostem. Malabar spinac, herbaceous climber. Mint, annual shrub. Papaya, woody shrub. The papaya, we know it is not woody shrub actually. We know it has the hollow part between the trunk, right? And mint is not annual shrub. Shrub means it is woody. So we can eliminate mint. Mint is a small plant, we know. It is not the shrubs, annual shrubs. So we can eliminate 4 and 5. Malabar spinac, a climber, Tamil pasali kodin சொல்லுவோம். The herbaceous climber, that is right. And ginger is also a herb, pseudo stem. The stem will be like a it rotated leaf, right? Cassava is a woody shrub that we know. Okay, so the மரவள்ளி கிழங்கு சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா அது. So eliminate 4 and 5. Only 3 is the answer. Okay. Then rainforest produce more oxygen than that produced by oceans. Marine phytoplankton and photosynthetic bacteria produce about 50% of the world's oxygen. Well oxygenated surface water contains several folds higher oxygen than that in the atmospheric air. So we know that the proportion of the area of the rainforest, if we compare this with the species found in the continental shelf of the ocean, that is very, very small. Okay, so that statement 1 is wrong. The ocean produce more. Marine phytoplankton and photosynthetic bacteria, so they produce. So it is 50%. Statement 2 is correct. Well oxygenated surface water contains several folds higher oxygen than that in the atmospheric air. So here several folds higher. So that's an extreme comparison, right? So that is wrong. Here atmosphere contains more. So we can eliminate 1 and 3, option 2 only. Okay. And then the history questions continues here. Then the next, the geography and environmental part is, so you can note the key here. I will scroll down slowly. Okay. Here the 39th question, circular economy reduces the emissions of greenhouse gases. Circular economy is the reuse recycling method economy. So definitely when we reduce the usage of many, when we reduce the waste in our daily use, then definitely the greenhouse gas emissions can be reduced through reduced production of many materials. Statement 2, here we have to check just 2 and 3 whether it explains or not. Circular economy reduces the use of raw materials. Yes, that's why the greenhouse gas is reduced. Circular economy reduces wastage in the production process. Yes, because we don't want to use the raw materials, so the wastage will be very, very minimal because it is the recycling method. So when we recycle any material. For example, if we recycle water can, waste water can, then the wastage will be very, very minimum. Almost most percentage of the material again will be produced as the same material. So statement 2 and 3 exactly explains statement 1. Then here the again the 41 North Atlantic Treaty Organization. In several times it was in the news, particularly the Ukraine-Russia war. Still it continues. The one of the reasons for the war is the Ukraine intention to join NATO, right? So here, Austria, Bulgaria, Croatia, Serbia, Sweden, North Macedonia, they have given. Here, Serbia is not, and in A, the alphabet A, Albania is the only country in NATO. So we can, if we know, only the country start with A is Albania, is in NATO. So Austria we can eliminate. So it is only 4. Okay, then Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Venezuela, Andes Mountain pass through how many of the above countries? So in the last week video also we said that we expect questions from the map questions from South America and Africa. So here we can eliminate Brazil. Brazil and Paraguay. We know that Paraguay is located slightly in the middle part. So only the westernmost countries have the Andes region. So Brazil is little bit eastern part, and Paraguay is almost central part. So other than these, only 4. Okay. Then Lake Tanganyika, Tonle Sap, Patos Lagoon. Through how many of them does equator pass? Like I asked. It is none. Tanganyika actually located near to Congo, but little bit it is located south of the equator. So none is the answer here. Then India is the largest producer and exporter of turmeric in the world. More than 30 varieties of turmeric are grown in India. Maharashtra, Telangana, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu are major turmeric producing states in India. So if you search, it is in the economic survey and also in the PIB news. About turmeric, if you search turmeric PIB, in that news, the 3 statements is there in a particular paragraph. All these 3 statements as it is. Right. So all the 3 are correct. Then continental drift evidences the belt of ancient rocks from Brazil coast matches with those from Western Africa. The gold deposits of Ghana are derived from Brazil plateau. The Gondwana system of sediments from India is known to have its countries in 6 different landmasses. Yes, all these 3 are evidences for this. We know that the zigzag fit of the continent and the rocks of the Brazil almost found in the part of Western African region. That is the one of the major evidence for this. And the gold minerals found in the Ghana coast. Similarly, the gold deposits are found in the Brazilian plateau region in the eastern Brazil. That is one of the evidence. And then the Gondwana system of sediments of India. Those are found in the Madagascar region, Sri Lanka, Australia, and in Antarctica, and in Africa also. So that is the evidence for the land, which was united once. So these are the evidences for continental drift, 1, 2, and 3. Then amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in subtropical and temperate areas than in equatorial and polar regions. Statement 2, subtropical and temperate areas have less dry winds. So we know that subtropical and temperate have more dust particles because of very less humidity, right? Because the subtropical region has high pressure due to the subsidence of wind, and that's why the temperature and pressure increases in the subtropical region. So it has very less humidity. That's why the dust particles in the atmosphere is more in that region. Then that's why the dust wind blows in the northern Indian part, you know. Subtropical and temperate areas have less dry winds, they have said that. So almost both are contradictory statement. So we can simply eliminate. So it is statement 1 is correct and 2 is wrong. So option C. And then It is a repeated question. Last year also they asked this question. In January, in the northern hemisphere, the isotherm bend equatorward while crossing the landmass and poleward while crossing the oceans, that we know, because in the winter season we know that um, if it is a ocean here and if it is a landmass, for example, it is land and it is sea, right? So land cools down quickly. So if you take a particular latitude, for example, it is the 30-degree north latitude, then the 30-degree north latitude during winter season in January month will have about 10 or 15 degrees Celsius, right? And in the sea, the 10 degrees Celsius will not be, because the ocean currents will be and the sea will be a little bit warmer, and sea heats up and cools down very slowly, right? So the same 10 degrees Celsius will be found in the northern high latitudes in the sea, and again in the landmass in the low latitudes the 10 degrees Celsius will be, and again in the sea in the high latitudes the 10 degrees Celsius will be. So when it crosses the land here, it bends towards equatorward, and when crossing the sea, it bends towards poleward. So that's what it has been given. While crossing the landmass, it equatorward, and poleward while crossing the oceans. So that is correct. Because in the winter season, the land cools down quickly, but the sea surface will be relatively warmer than the land. That's why the cyclones frequently forms in the ocean during winter season, right? Okay. So option A. Then next question. In the context of effect on water on rocks, chalk is known as very permeable rock, whereas clay is known as quite an impermeable or least permeable rock. Okay. Chalk is porous and hence can absorb water. Clay is not at all porous. Okay. So porous and permeability. Porous is if the surface has many cracks and the holes, that is called as porous. Permeability is the capacity of absorbing water, the characteristics of absorbing water, right? So here, chalk is porous and hence can absorb water. Yes, that is right. Statement 3, clay is not at all porous, they have given. Clay is relatively, it has very less porous, but it has given the extreme word not at all. So you can eliminate statement 3. So statement 2 is right. So the answer is only one of the statement 2 and 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. So because the chalk is porous and hence it is known as very permeable, right? Then without the atmosphere, temperature would be well below freezing point everywhere on the Earth's surface. Heat absorbed and trapped by the atmosphere maintains our planet's average temperature. So our heat balance, heat budget is maintained by the atmosphere. We know the incoming solar radiation balances the outgoing terrestrial radiation, because we have the atmospheric and several characteristics of atmosphere, right? So statement 2 is correct. Without atmosphere, directly the UV rays, without any loss of the rays, it will enter to the surface, will reach the surface, and similarly the terrestrial radiation will be also in the night time without any obstruction. So in the night time it will go to well below the freezing point. It will be in minus something degrees Celsius, and in the daytime it will be very higher. So it will not be everywhere well below freezing point on the Earth's surface. Okay. So the day and night will be changed. Heat absorbed, that's why the heat budget is maintained. Atmospheric gases like carbon dioxide are particularly good at absorbing and trapping radiation. So that's why it is called as greenhouse gases, that we know. So option 2 and 3. The Gokul mission is in the current affairs. And then the polity questions almost. This were in the current issues only. So the BRICS. So the summit and various current issues were there. The proposal for the BRIC currency, those were in the news that we know. Okay. And rare earth elements, about 3 questions related to rare earth element and critical minerals have been asked this year. It was frequently, it was in the news, particularly in the last 4 months. Okay. And artificial rain causing, artificial way of causing rainfall to reduce air pollution makes use of silver iodide and potassium iodide. That's also then the many polity questions, those were in the current issues only. The nature restoration law to tackle climate change and biodiversity loss. So it was enacted by European Union, and we know in the current issues, the European Union, they increased the tax for carbon intense product export to European Union, that we know. So that was in the news frequently. Then here UPA usage, then ordinance. And we know that the governor issue Article 200, that was in the news frequently. They had asked this. Okay. And the Scheduled Area Act, the Northeastern State issue were there. So that was also in the news frequently. And governor issue. Then history, what these are. Papaya, pineapple, guava. How many of the above were introduced in India by Portuguese? All these 3. Okay. Then UK, Denmark, New Zealand, Australia, Brazil. How many of the above countries have more than 4 time zones? So only 4. Denmark has 4 time zones, not more than 4. All other 4 have more than 4. So Brazil has only 4. So only 4. Answer. Then Anadyr in Siberia and no in Alaska are a few kilometers from each other, but when people are waking up and getting set for breakfast in these cities, it will be different days. So we know that the international date line, which passes through the 180-degree longitude, which is between these 2 areas, Siberia and Alaska, Anadyr in Siberia and Alaska. So they definitely, due to the date line crossing area, they will be in different days. So statement 1 is correct. When it is Monday in Anadyr, it is Tuesday in no. So Siberia will be ahead of Alaska region, right? So Alaska will be in the previous day. Siberia will be in the next day. So Anadyr will be in Tuesday, Nome will be in Monday. So second statement is wrong. So 1 only. And then Botswana, that was in the current affairs. Botswana government signed an agreement with an American company for diamond. So that was in the news. In February month, it was in the news. The Botswana diamond, Chile, lithium, and Indonesia nickel. So it was these elements were in the news for rare earth elements. So it is all the 3 answer. Mallorca, Italy, Normandy, Spain, Sardinia, France. So almost all these islands were in the issue. We know that in the European region, so it is the map of Spain, Portugal, and Italy. So here, the southwest of Italy, the Sicily Island and Sardinia Island are located. So both Sardinia and Sicily, one volcanic eruption were in the news related to it. So here, these 2 islands belongs to Italy. Corsica Island, little bit north of the Sardinia Island. Corsica belongs to France, that we know, right? Okay. And here in the Balearic Island, the Mallorca Island, is located here. So that belongs to the Spain region. And Normandy, that was in the here in the Atlantic coast of France, here Normandy. So it was in the news that the 80th anniversary of Second World War end. Normandy region war was one of the important event in the Second World War. So it is the 80th anniversary region, and one article was published related to it. It was in the news. So the answer is none. All these are wrong. Okay. So these are the questions from geography and environmental part. So about 28 questions have been asked here. Okay, done. So ஒரு விஷயம் கிளியராக புரிஞ்சிருக்கும். கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸ் கொஸ்டின்ஸ், டெய்லி கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸ் டெஸ்ட் எடுத்தவங்களுக்கு நல்லாவே தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும் எத்தனை கொஸ்டின்ஸ் ரெஃப்ளெக்ட் ஆகிருக்குது. அண்ட் இஷ்யூஸ் ரெகுலராக ரீட் பண்ணுறவங்க எந்த அளவுக்கு இதை டேக்கிள் பண்ணியிருக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னு இன்னைக்கு எக்ஸாம் அட்டன் பண்ணுறவங்களுக்கு கண்டிப்பாக அதை ரியலைஸ் பண்ணியிருப்பீங்க. ஸோ நத்திங், நம்ம மறுபடியும் சொல்கிறது தான். கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸ் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் எல்லாமே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா டெய்லி ஒழுங்காக நியூஸ் பேப்பர் படித்து நாம் நோட்ஸ் எடுத்து டெய்லி கரண்ட் அஃபேர் டெஸ்ட் அட்டன் பண்ணாலே கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸை கொஸ்டின்ஸை டேக்கிள் பண்ணிட முடியும் அப்படிங்கிறது தெரியும். ஸோ நான் ரெஃப்ளெக்ஷன்ஸ் கொடுக்கணும்னு அவசியமே இல்லை. நீங்கள் வெப்சைட்டில் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் எடுத்து பார்த்தீங்கனாலே தெரியும். ஸோ நத்திங், இது ரொம்ப சிம்பிள். நீங்கள் எந்த நிறைய சோர்சஸ் கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸுக்குன்னு போய் ரீட் பண்ணாதீங்க, அதில் டைம் வேஸ்ட் பண்ணாதீங்கன்னு சொல்கிறது அதனால தான். நிறைய சோர்சஸ் நிறைய எக்ஸ்ட்ராபுலேட் பண்ணிலாம் கேட்கறது இல்லை. பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ரொம்ப சிம்பிளாக நம்ம டைரக்ட் கரண்ட் இஷ்யூஸ் தான் நிறைய இருக்குது. இப்போ நாம மிஸ் பண்ணாமல் டெய்லி நியூஸ் பேப்பர் ரீட் பண்ணிட்டு ஜஸ்ட் ஒரு வீக்லி டெஸ்ட்டோ இல்லை டெய்லி கரண்ட் அஃபேர் டெஸ்ட்டோ அட்டன் பண்ணி பார்த்தோம் அப்படின்னாலே கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸ் கொஸ்டின்ஸை டேக்கிள் பண்ணிட முடியும் அப்படிங்கிறது தெரியுது. அண்ட் ஆல்மோஸ்ட் நிறைய சப்ஜெக்ட் கொஸ்டின், பாலிட்டி கொஸ்டின்ஸ் எல்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அப்படியே கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸோட ரிலேட்டட் தான் இல்லையா? ஓகே. Similarly, the environmental questions also and the economics questions. Okay. So the need is just read the newspaper daily without missing any one day and take your own notes from those issues. ஏன்னா டெய்லி நம்ம அடிக்கடி சொல்கிறது தான், ஒரு நாளைக்கு 4 இஷ்யூஸ்க்கு மேலே இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் இருக்காது எக்ஸாம் ரிலேட்டடாக. ஸோ அதை ஒழுங்காக நம்ம ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணோம்னாலே ரொம்ப ஈஸியாக கிராக் பண்ணலாம். ஓகே. அண்ட் உங்களுக்கு வேறு எதுவும் டவுட் இன்னைக்கு டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணதில் இருந்தது இல்லை வேறு கொஸ்டின்ஸில் டவுட் இருந்தது அப்படின்னா கமெண்ட் பாக்ஸில் கமெண்ட் பண்ணுங்கள். தேங்க்யூ ஆல்.